I just want to start this video off by saying, Ariana Grande, you are not the biggest in the Heights stan. I am.
My name is Francesca, and you're watching Fanatics TV.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to you as well. Today, we are reviewing my favorite musical that has now been turned into a movie. And as you can see, I'm smiling. I cannot even get through this intro without cheesing. Okay, so, of course, we're talking about In the Heights, a musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda that has now been turned into a 2021 movie. Before we get into it, I want to talk about the shirt I'm wearing. This is my In the Heights t-shirt from my high school production of In the Heights. It's a little tight now, you know, it was a different size back then, but I thought it was appropriate for the occasion. So, I have notes, so if you see me glance down, I'm looking at this chaotic mess. I've watched the movie twice now, and I will say, originally when I first started hearing the soundtrack and seeing the film clips, I was very concerned. I was actually kind of upset, if we're honest with ourselves. I did not understand the shift in storyline from just the soundtrack, and it rubbed me the wrong way. So I'm happy to say that I did enjoy the movie. Now, please, guys, spoilers are in this. Spoilers are all throughout this. I'm not even gonna say this is when it's spoiled. Like, this whole thing is a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to be spoiled, watch this after you watch it and see, you know, how our opinions match or don't match. So first off, I wanted to talk about the missing songs. I think that was a big thing for me. Here are the missing songs that I noticed. Enough, Inútil, Sunrise, Hundreds of Stories, Attention, and Everything I Know. Now, I don't think I missed any, but if I did, please comment down below, correct me real quick. So a big thing for me that I didn't like is that these songs were missing. I looked at the soundtrack and I was like, where is the other half of the soundtrack? I love the soundtrack. I have it on vinyl. I'm like looking and I'm like, all these songs are missing. I'm so confused. I do feel as though with all of these songs, except for Everything I Know and Attention, they would have been ill-placed in the way the film was framed. Now, I will say, a lot of the stories in these songs were played out. Hundreds of Stories is played out from a conversation between Abuela and Nina and Abuela and Usavi. You hear a lot of the same things. Of course, parts of Paciencia y Fe is also Hundreds of Stories. So you hear all of that play out together. Everything I Know, I feel like that could have stayed. I don't see why it wasn't. I think that there is a bit of a moment in the movie where you feel Everything I Know. There was no reason to get rid of Attention. I feel like it could have came on right before the scene of Alabanza and like just pan to the house where everybody was outside. Also, like, so beautiful. We'll get there. We will, I promise. So I have issues with some of this being taken out. A big thing that I don't understand and no one has explained to me and I've tried to find everywhere, what happened to Camilla? Like, Mrs. Rosario is not in this film and that's why we don't have enough. That's part of the reason why Inútil is probably taken out as well, just because the presence of Mrs. Rosario is very strict. So that was like my notice from just looking through the songs. Now, for the movie itself, I think that the opening was amazing. I love the idea of Lynn and Chris Jackson, who, if you don't know, played Usnavi and Benny in the original production of the musical as the Faragua boy and Mr. Frosty. I thought that was perfect. In the opening scene, I love the small frame into big frame. So of course we're focusing on Usnavi because that's who the movie's really about, but you get the feeling and the culture and the vibe of the Barrio very quickly. Somebody said that they felt like there was not enough Afro-Latina representation in the film. If you look at the opening scene, just seeing the different shades of people and the different cultures, and you know, we don't have the flags yet, we're not at Carnival del Barrio, but we see so much culture and you know it's just not one type of people. and everyone's moving and bustling and dancing, and it's beautiful. So the opening number for me was very great. I don't like a lot of the changes in wording in it. I felt it was uncomfortable, and it may just be because I have the actual soundtrack like in my mind, like over and over and over again. But the opening number I did feel was spectacular. One thing I loved was the actor choices for the salon ladies. I feel like they were very sassy and like felt like you were in an actual salon. Like, it felt good. A lot of people have complained about the framing of the story, you know, that he's telling the story to his children, and a lot of people don't like that, and they felt that distracting from the story. Personally, I had no issue with it. I honestly, a lot of times forgot that he was telling the story to his kids, because Usnavi tells the story to like someone. We don't even know who he's talking to in the play, so it didn't feel too much different for me. So I didn't have an issue with that. That was something that people had an issue with, was the framing. I do think there was times where the shift from person to person was a little awkward or not smooth, just simply because it's a musical that's being put into the frame of a movie, and so it's harder to shift from frame to frame. But as in the framing of how the story was told, I think that it was perfect, and I don't really have an issue with it, but a lot of people did. So, sorry. I like early on the idea of a suenitos, which is not a concept that is stated in the musical. And I think that dreams or goals are very important to everyone, you know, especially if you are trying to get out of someplace or go to someplace. Your dreams are like your vital signs. And I think for Usnavi, you know, that was the core of who he was. And I think going back and making this focus on suenitos was the most like beautiful thing, because it's like it keeps coming up over and over and over again. Little dreams, little dreams, little dreams. And if you don't know, suenitos means little dream. That's what it means. So that was a theme that I thought was very great. And that was something else that I noticed in the very beginning couple of minutes. We already have that established. Boom, you hear it like 3 times, little dreams, or you dream too much, or dream. Like, it's just over and over again. And I think that that is great. And we'll get to that more later. There is a narrative of struggle. There is a narrative of acknowledging cultural pain in this film that I think is very important. I'm going to read a quote from the film. I can't remember this word for word, so I need to read it. But it goes, "We have to assert our dignity in small ways. These are little details that tell the world that we are not invisible." And that quote, for me, that really spoke to me. You know, as a person of color, you have to work 10 and 12 times harder, but you know, having those small little details, you know, the way abuela cares for certain things, that quote just spoke to me. And that's one thing. Another big thing in the salon scene, somebody says that they can't do something. I didn't write down the actual situation, but someone complains about something or says they can't do something. And one of the salon ladies says, "We did not survive slavery, modern day slavery." You know, she goes down the list. We did not survive all this pain and struggle for you to say you can't do something. And that was just like, whew, like, yes. And I like that salon scene, we'll get there in a second, but that is important. And I love that perspective of throwing in the importance of history. And I don't think that it was important in the musical. I don't think that it was needed in the musical, but I think today, now, you need that. And to get to that point, the conversation of DACA, the conversation of the protests, and the general idea of citizenship, I cried a lot in a lot of those scenes, just because for me, a lot of what's going on is makes me heavy. And I'm not going to get into that political end of that, but it just makes me heavy. And I thought that it was beautiful, kind of showing the fight, showing little Sonny being like feisty and a man of justice, a man of equality. And I thought that was beautiful because to me in the musical, it was always so strange in 96,000 when Sonny breaks down and he's like, I'm gonna get the Barrio computers and wireless web browsers. I'm like, where did this come from? You can't show up to work on time. What? But now putting in this frame, it really gives Sonny life, and I love that. But also it's important to talk about that narrative, talk about the importance of DACA and the importance of making it easier and better, to talk about immigration, to talk about the process, the money, the whole framing, the whole process of this situation. It brings up a lot of other things too, and so I felt like that was exceptionally important. The conversation had with the lawyer at the end that, hey, this is going to be expensive, this is going to be long, and it might not work. That was my serious bit there. We're going to get back into these songs. The salon scene. Okay, so listen, I just love the vibrancy, the color, the vocals, the movement. All of that together was just like, yes. The whole entire thing just gave me life. This is where we talk about know your history. This is where, we have the whole gorgeous Nina, tell me something I don't know. It's just so beautiful, and I just, I don't even have words, man. That was one of my favorite numbers, just because of the movement and how beautiful it was. I'm not going to get into this particular number, but I did have some weird situations with how it won't be long now was framed. But I do like getting back to those suenitos. I do like how we saw a shift in Vanessa. I think that Vanessa was made to be a very flat character in the musical, and again, the character development in the musical was more relational, like how do these people interact, than it was supposed to be actual, this is this person, this is this person. And I think the film does a great job of doing that. So I do want to say the path of Vanessa as a designer or clothing or fashion designer was so great to see, and to see her reach her potential at the end and, be able to create and sell. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to see. The longevity of a dream, being able to see that in her, I absolutely love. And I think that's something that was important because I feel like, in a sense, some of these characters in the musical are more a means to the end to tell the story. But she had her own story, and I like that. So that's my bit about that. My next favorite number was 96,000. It was my favorite number to perform. It was my favorite number to listen to. I think that this is just like, there's so many people, there's so much movement. It's a great number. Anthony Ramos's mom is in this scene, so that's cool too. I like the idea of reading the numbers out to the crowd, it being a community thing, and everyone just being around, and instead of just being in the street, like being at the pool and, expressing the heat. Because I think that's another thing, that the intensity of the heat as the time goes by, the numbers go by, it grows. And so I think that that was very important for it. The part in 96,000 where Sonny ends his little rap and there's a random girl who's like, you are so cute. Listen, that little, suave smile Sonny had, he is just so adorable. Like, you want to pinch his cheeks, but it's also like, you're so smart. Like, I don't know what to do with you. So I love that they made that work. I think another cool thing was the uses of art. In 96,000, for instance, there's the doodles. We see fabric coming down at some point for Vanessa. There's just different little things that are super animated. Benny and Nina walking up the side of the building with When You're Home. There's so much art in this that's outside of the musical, that's outside of film, that I thought was kind of cool, constructing that stuff around it. I'm getting a little out of order here, but I did want to go back to the important topics, or the harder topics. I do think something else that was really important to talk about was the struggle of college for a person of color, and expressed or unexpressed racism. Nina tells a story about how she was searched by her college roommate's parents, I believe, and the RA, because the roommate had lost something and she accused Nina basically of stealing it, just because of who she was and where she came from. And I think that narrative was important too. I'm someone who went to a PWI and a private PWI, and I experienced a lot of love and appreciation, but there were also moments and situations that were put into place that weren't that great. Institutionalized racism is a thing, just like, know that. And so I think that was an important narrative. I think that's something that we don't talk about, being uncomfortable or being the only person of color in a room and how that gets framed and what things are said to you. And we do not talk about that. And I thought that was very important to bring up. And the conversation of what going to college looks like for someone who may not have documentation on the end of Sunny when that gets brought back up. He says, I knew I couldn't get a driver's license, but college. And again, like, all of that is just stuff that we don't talk about that I feel like was so imperative to talk about. And also another note on the representation there is a scene where the children cut off Usnavi and his storytelling because they bring back up Cheetah Rivera. And I don't remember how they bring her back up later because it's not in the opening number. And he has them go through and, talk about Cheetah, Frida, and all of these amazing Latinx and Hispanic women. And, it jars you because it's like, if you know who they are, it's exciting and you're like, yes, like culture. If you don't, then you're going to go Google later and be like, okay, who's Frida Kahlo? Who's Cheetah Rivera? And you're going to look it up and you're going to learn. And I thought that was great. So stepping back out of representation and important parts and going back to musical numbers. I'll pause here and say there were two changes that I thought were interesting because they weren't so much for storyline's sake or being PC. I think there's a lot of things that were changed to be PC, and it was kind of weird and I didn't like it. But for time's sake, I thought the change of Donald Trump to Tiger Woods was cool. In 96,000, Donald Trump and I on the links and he's my caddy, changing it to Tiger Woods and I on the links and he's my caddy. Now, another one was Manny Ramirez and Big Papi. I lived in Boston for a good period of time. I am a big Red Sox fan, and Big Papi is a Dominican baseball player. And I had no idea who Manny Ramirez was, and I don't really know much about Manny Ramirez, but it was cool for somebody my age to now have a reference of somebody of Dominican culture coming into town, and it was Big Papi, and I thought that was great. That made me really happy. Falling back into the musical numbers, I'm going to talk about the club scene and Blackout interchangeably. There's going to be a lot of disappointment expressed in this portion of the video, so please understand that. I think the club scene was just how I imagined it. It very much so, frame for frame, felt like me performing it, or me listening to the musical over and over again. The actual club scene I had no issue with. I thought it was paced well. I thought the use of the empty, non-vocal, I shouldn't say empty, the non-vocal orchestral sounds were used well. The dialogue made sense, the movement made sense. Now Blackout. Soundtrack-wise, for the musical, or musical-wise, Blackout is probably my third favorite song. I think I would say 96,000, Finale, and Blackout. And Blackout was butchered, okay? You guys did Blackout wrong. I love you so much, Lynn, but, y'all butchered Blackout. And I'm not saying you killed it, it was good. You messed it up. So, the sound was very empty. And I feel like Blackout is supposed to be a very ensemble-based song with those heavy notes of individuals. Now, me not knowing music well, maybe, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, maybe it would have been chaotic to have such a strong, heavy ensemble throughout, and then having everyone doing their little talking. But, it felt so empty. It wasn't hitting. The slight note changes in the music were just, no. Okay? No. This is the only thing in this movie that fully disappointed me, and I will be honest about that. It was just Why? Why you do that? The change of Sonny and Graffiti Pete's dialogue in Blackout. I think this was one of those moments that there was a change made to be more PC. Of course, there's a conversation of looting. There's a conversation of using the word thugs. And we're dealing with a lot of issues and discrimination coming from both of those words. Those words get thrown around long a lot and on social media and other ways. And I do get the choice of removing that line. I don't like how it was replaced. It didn't sound right. It didn't make sense. It literally felt like they were reminding themselves, oh, we can't say that. Let's say this. So, you know, I do get it. And this was one of those other moments where it was like a PC choice, but it didn't hit. Vanessa and Usnavi's interaction, on the other hand, I also didn't really like, but it really kind of was aggressive on Usnavi's, and I was like, who is this? Usnavi doesn't talk to women like that. And so I didn't like it. I will say this, I really love the dispatch scene where Benny runs back and he is working to get everyone to safety. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. This is where the shift in plot for me got good. I appreciate the shift in plot from here on out. So Benny coming in there, working hard, going to that dispatch and trying to help people. And it really, again, it gave a lot more life to Benny. You know, Benny's not just a friend. Benny's not just looking after Nina. Benny cares, you know? And so that was cool. And then, of course, we get back to the house. Everybody's coming together. I liked that idea. Loved it. And it's like when Abuela laid down, I said, they're going to have Abuela pass away with all these people in the house. And I hated that. Because I was like, no. I love how they put Paciencia y Fe into a frame of, like, going to the other side. It was so artistic and symbolic. You know, there's this light that she's going up towards when she says, all right, mama, okay? And you have the two sides of her. You have New York, you have Havana, and it's so artistic and it's beautiful. And these are the things I live for in musical movies, is I want to see those scenes where you stretch your creativity. And that felt very musical-like, because you could have, you know, people coming in and out and things like that. I loved it. It was great. And I was already getting there because I knew when she laid down, and I was already kind of emotional. I feel like for me, I stopped writing and I stopped taking notes and I stopped thinking about this video both times when I watched what happened after, you know, her dying, basically, and the aftermath. I think there's a very interesting use of silence. I don't know how long it is, but for a very extended amount of time, there's no audio. It's just silence. And I think that is so important. You know, I think that the concept of death, you need a moment to process, you know, first off. But the concept of death is like, silence is so prominent in death, and I don't think people realize that. And it was like, the use of silence was just like, okay. Watching Anthony cry, Anthony Ramos, who plays Snavi, I could not. I was bawling. The first time I watched it, I paused and I like stepped away for a second, because it was a lot of emotions for me and it was just too much. I think there was a couple of times I cried a lot. That was one, and then also the protest scene with Sonny, I cried. And those are really close together, and so I was just crying for a good moment. So yeah, tears, lots of them. With Carnival del Barrio, it's a fun song. I love it, I really do. And I like the way the ladies come back, because they're like, excuse me, you're going to say bye to me the right way, and you guys are not going to sit around here and mope. We're getting up, let's go, let's dance. And I love it, and I love the appropriate display of cultures. It's like, hey, let me give you this second to say where you're from, and da-da-da. Like, whoo, it was beautiful. Again, it gave me that feeling in the beginning. It's like, I can see the culture. I can feel the culture. I can, you know, the different dances. You see the flags, the different shades of skin tone. It was just like, yes, culture again. And I loved it, and I think that it was well done. There's some small changes in this song that are, again, awkward, but they were needed for the sake of the plot, and I do understand that. One thing I really appreciate is how they set up the lottery. So the fact that Usnavi finds the lottery ticket and it says for Usnavi, and he's not really being selfish in this film. I'm not saying I felt like he was selfish in the play, but it was kind of like he was only focused on him. Sonny got his part, but the fact that he was putting his money towards something anyway to rebuild his father's bar on the island, it was touching, and I thought that was good. And it's funny because he had been so caught up, like Abuela had been in her mother's dream, that he got caught up in his father's dream, that he didn't realize that what he really wanted was right there. And that's the idea of the paradise in the Heights. But most importantly, how he uses the money in this film to help Sonny, to allow him to be able to stay and, work through that legal process, that was unexpected. That was like a quick plot twist that I was like, yes, help Sonny get through this process. And again, I think it's important how they talked about it. We talked about that already. So towards the end, I always consider campaign and finale a part of one. I feel like Champagne going through that whole entire scene, it was a little awkward. First off, where did she pull that champagne bottle from? Anybody in the comments, where did she get it from? Because it seems like she just had it in her hand magically when she turned back around. But the kiss was the Usnavi, yeah, was a big thing for us when we were doing the musical, so I like that stayed. Finale. I think the finale was cool, kind of pulling away like the idea of I found my island the whole time I'm home, and it's literally him sitting in the bodega. I like that concept. It gets a little weird visually towards the end, but overall, I think that the visual of this being his dream was imperatively important. Overall, movie-wise, I would rate this a 10. As a musical person, rating it as a musical turned into a movie, I do give it about an 8.5, a 9, just because there's a lot of places where it fell short, and Blackout was terrible. It just was. I'm sorry. But overall, this has been my opinion on it. There's a cutscene at the end, so if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. I'm not going to tell you what it was. If you have not heard Home from Summer, which is a track on the soundtrack with Mark Anthony, please listen. It's a bop. It's good. And I thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sorry I gave you guys 2 long videos back to back, but you guys should be getting a vlog and some things like that here shortly. Let me know what you thought of the movie. Comment down below. I hope you guys have a great day, and as always, thank you.